Stories that remain unresolved for decades captivate our interest the most. In the vast, murky world of unsolved crimes, families endure hardships while justice moves slowly, if at all. Atlanta mother Melissa Wolfenbarger is not an outlier. Her tale began with a woman missing on Thanksgiving Day in 1998 and spiraled into a nightmare filled with suffering, doubt, and shocking revelations lasting 25 years. Melissa, just 21 at the time, was eager and hopeful as she organized the holiday festivities for her family, unaware that this would be their final exchange of messages. 5 long months after her disappearance, her disfigured remains were discovered. Yet her true identity remained a mystery, buried deep among cold case files. It took 25 years to solve the case of Melissa Wolfenbarger, a mother from Atlanta. With the help of a podcast and an unexpected twist involving her father, a serial killer, the truth finally emerged. In the fall of 1998, 21-year-old Melissa Wolfenbarger was busy preparing for the holidays. Her family last heard from her during Thanksgiving, when she enthusiastically discussed Christmas plans. However, as the festive season approached, Melissa failed to reach out, raising alarm bells for her mother, Norma Patton. "I freaked out right away," Norma recalled. "She was an adult, married with children, so there wasn't much we could do. But when my birthday passed without any communication, I realized something was seriously wrong." Following her missed birthday in February 1999, Norma and her daughter Tina traveled from Locust Grove, Georgia, to Atlanta, desperate to find Melissa. But when they arrived, they discovered that the Wolfenbarger family had vanished. Neighbors reported they had moved but had no idea where to. After reporting Melissa missing, police spoke with her husband, Christopher Wolfenbarger, who claimed she had left to start anew in California. The family was left heartbroken and confused. As the search continued, tragedy struck again. On April 29, 1999, a decapitated head was found in a black trash bag near Christopher's workplace. Authorities initially believed the remains belonged to another missing person. Then, on June 3rd, further mutilated remains were discovered nearby, though no torso was ever recovered. The identity of the remains remained unknown for years, causing immense suffering for Melissa's family. In 2003, the case took a shocking turn when Carl Patton, Melissa's father, was arrested for a series of unrelated murders known as the Flint River murders. His arrest became pivotal for Melissa's case. His arrest is what finally identified her remains, Norma later told The Independent. "We might never have known if he hadn't been caught." After DNA testing confirmed the remains were Melissa's, Carl was cleared of any direct involvement in her murder. Yet the identity of her killer remained a haunting mystery. Despite the painful revelations, Norma never ceased advocating for her daughter. The family's quest for answers gained new momentum after Carl's arrest. During this time, Tina managed to coax her mother into discussing Melissa with Carl. Shortly after, a newspaper article led someone in Atlanta to connect the dots and suggest they test the remains at the morgue, leading to the identification of Melissa's remains. In 2017, Norma approached crime scene investigator Cheryl Mack McCollum, whose dedication to cold cases offered new hope. At an event, she met McCollum and shared her story. "You must persevere," Norma advised. "You never know who might help, so talk to anyone who will listen." McCollum opened doors, helping to shine a spotlight back on Melissa's case. In February 2023, McCollum's podcast, Zone 7, debuted with Melissa's story as its first episode. In a twist of fate, a listener contacted McCollum in April 2024 with vital information about Christopher's behavior. When McCollum received the tip, she felt a strong intuition about its significance. The informant had observed troubling behavior in the couple, but could provide no further details. After more than 2 decades of silence, McCollum passed this information to the lead detective, reigniting the investigation into Melissa's case. As the case progressed, McCollum began to suspect Christopher Wolfenbarger was the prime suspect. She collaborated closely with Melissa's family, researching and consulting experts like Nancy Grace and Dr. Angie Arnold to strengthen their case. "It doesn't matter what I think if they conclude it's Wolfenbarger," she asserted, driven by a fierce commitment to justice. Around the same time, Fannie Willis, the newly appointed district attorney, formed a task force, placing Melissa's case at the top of the agenda. McCollum led Assistant District Attorney Adrienne Love to the site where Melissa's head was found, emphasizing its significance in the ongoing investigation. "Working the case takes time," she noted, coordinating efforts to ensure all leads were followed. On August 6, 2024, Christopher Wolfenbarger was arrested. The news of his detention was announced at a press conference the next day, bringing mixed emotions to Melissa's family. Detective Shepard confirmed that Wolfenbarger had been a person of interest from the beginning, with the arrest based on probable cause.
When Detective Shepard called me yesterday morning at 8:23 and told me that he was in custody, I yelled, "Thank you, Lord." And the good Lord above has gotten me through this from the first day into this day.
Norma and Tina had always suspected Christopher was guilty. "We knew it was him from the beginning," Tina stated. "My mom often said he had evil in his eyes." After Melissa's disappearance, Norma and Tina never heard from Christopher again. While the grief over Melissa's loss would never fully heal, Christopher's arrest brought them some closure. "I no longer have to glance over my shoulder," Norma tearfully shared. "Now that he's in jail, that's where he should be." Yet, they reflected on the years of suffering and unanswered questions, taking solace in the fact that it took 25 years to gather proof of what they had long suspected. Melissa Wolfenbarger left behind a legacy of love, tenacity, and an unwavering quest for justice. Her story serves as a poignant reminder that hope persists even in the darkest circumstances. Thanks to her family's perseverance, the dedication of individuals like Cheryl McCollum, and the power of modern media, Melissa's voice was finally heard, illuminating the path toward justice. While her 2 small children played in the adjacent room, the father of a slain Miss Switzerland contender made a discovery that no parent should ever face: his daughter's severed head, tucked away in a bin bag in the laundry room of her home. This horrifying discovery would shatter the quiet suburban life near Basel and uncover dark secrets hidden behind a seemingly perfect facade. 38-year-old Kristina Joksimovic was not just a mother, but a former finalist in the Miss Switzerland pageant. She was admired for her beauty, charm, and grace, but her life took a gruesome turn. It is believed that her husband, referred to as Thomas in local media, strangled her, dismembered her body, and even attempted to puree parts of it with a blender in a desperate attempt to dispose of the evidence. The sequence of events began on February 13th, a day that started like any other for Kristina's family. Her parents had grown concerned when she failed to respond to messages and calls. The silence was alarming. Kristina had always been in touch with her family, especially with 2 young children to care for. As the hours dragged on, her father could no longer shake the uneasy feeling that something was wrong. When he arrived at the house to check on her, he was met with an unsettling scene. Thomas, her husband, was at home with the children. He seemed calm, even nonchalant, brushing off questions about Kristina's whereabouts. According to her father, Thomas claimed that Kristina often took time for herself and that she would return soon. But as the hours passed, That explanation became harder to believe. Her father began searching the house, driven by a rising panic. Then, in the laundry room, a shock awaited him. Beneath a rubbish bag, he saw something familiar, strands of golden hair. It was Christina. The horror was too great to comprehend. He had just found his daughter, her head severed, discarded like garbage. The nightmare had begun. Christina Joksimovic was born in Binningen, Switzerland, to Serbian parents. She had a bright future ahead of her, and her star rose quickly in the world of beauty and fashion. In 2003, she made her mark by winning the title of Miss Northwest Switzerland, and in 2008, she was a finalist in the highly prestigious Miss Switzerland pageant. But her life was not just defined by her beauty. Christina was also an intelligent and driven woman, excelling in the field of IT recruitment and mentoring young models as a catwalk coach. Her Instagram account, @catwalkcoach, had garnered over 3,500 followers, showcasing her work and influence in the industry. One of her proudest achievements was preparing model Dominique Rinderknecht for the Miss Universe pageant, where Rinderknecht made a significant impact. Christina's expertise and ability to inspire young women were undeniable. She was a woman of many talents, balancing her career with being a mother to her 2 young daughters. But behind closed doors, Christina's life was not as picture-perfect as it seemed. Although her social media portrayed a life of family vacations and glamorous events, friends later revealed that her marriage to Thomas had been on the rocks for months. Their relationship, once full of passion and promise, had become a battlefield of arguments and escalating violence. Police were even called to their home on previous occasions due to complaints of domestic abuse, though these incidents had not been widely reported at the time. The dismemberment of Christina's body was brutal. According to court documents, after strangling her, Thomas used a jigsaw, knives, and garden shears to cut her body into pieces in the laundry room. Some parts of her body were then placed into a hand mixer, where they were blended and later dissolved in chemicals. The forensic autopsy confirmed that Christina had been strangled, and her body bore signs of blunt force trauma as well. It was a shocking discovery that led to Thomas's immediate arrest. When questioned, Thomas claimed that he had acted in self-defense. According to him, Christina had attacked him, and in a moment of panic, he killed her. He then dismembered her body, believing it was the only way to avoid the consequences of his actions. But investigators were skeptical of his story from the start. Prosecutors quickly built a case against Thomas, revealing his history of controlling behavior and violence toward Christina. In court, it was revealed that Thomas had once strangled his wife during an argument, and on another occasion, he had slammed her head against a wall. These disturbing incidents painted a chilling portrait of a man capable of horrific violence and a woman who had lived in fear for far longer than anyone realized. Christina's friends and family were left reeling by the news. Nadine Vinzens, a close friend and the 2002 Miss Switzerland, told the Swiss news portal now.ch, "I knew her well, and I met him briefly. I'm utterly stunned and devastated. I could never have imagined that something like this would occur in my life." Others who knew Christina echoed the same sentiments: disbelief, shock, and heartache. The couple's social media presence had shown glimpses of happier times, including a couple's getaway posted on Christina's Instagram account just weeks before her death. But appearances can be deceiving. Friends later came forward, stating that Christina had confided in them about the growing tension in her marriage. Despite outward signs of a perfect life, the cracks in their relationship were becoming impossible to ignore. In court, prosecutors painted a picture of a man who lacked empathy and exhibited sadistic sociopathic traits. They argued that Thomas had not only killed his wife, but had done so in a calculated and cold-blooded manner, attempting to cover up the crime by mutilating her body. His actions demonstrated, in their words, a conspicuously high level of criminal energy. The psychological evaluation of Thomas added another layer to the case. Experts found concrete indications of a mental illness, though his exact diagnosis remained unclear. Thomas continued to insist that he had acted in self-defense, but his story was unraveling under the weight of the evidence against him. As the trial continued, more harrowing details came to light. Friends revealed that Christina had been planning to leave Thomas, but she had hesitated because of her children. The thought of breaking up the family weighed heavily on her, and she feared for their future. Tragically, her hesitation may have cost her life. As we come to the close of this heartbreaking case, we are left with more questions than answers. How could a life so full of promise end in such violence? What warning signs went unnoticed? And how can justice truly be served for Christina Joksimovic? We appreciate you being here as we re-examine the eerie case of Christina Joksimovic, a tale of sorrow, resiliency, and the protracted search for justice. Please click the notification bell, like and subscribe if you like this video. Your assistance enables us to keep raising awareness of these crucial issues.